Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz, and I'm back with something new for you today. We're going to case a card, copy and selectively edit, and we're working from these two cards from my friend Danny over at Danny's Dreams. Plus, I also have a bonus printable for you. I'll tell you all about it later on, but there are 3 different pages of this ombre gradient, and it has a little bit of a curve to it that's going to work beautifully on our birthday cake. This one, oh, I love that one maybe the most. So I am going to start with this big mouse die set from Elizabeth Craft Designs. She has a bunch of different outfits and things you can put on the mice. There's also a small mouse. We're just using the big mouse today. And I'm going to come in and ink blend a little bit, mostly because I didn't have a cardstock that was quite the color that I wanted. I wanted a little bit darker of a brown for him. If I was going to do this again, I would go a little bit darker because this ink dries back, but really it just means I need to make a bunch more of these, which is totally fine by me. I picked up this mouse right around, I think, Black Friday. My local scrapbook store, the Scrapbook Haven, was having a huge die sale. I'm going to link to the Scrapbook Haven in my description box below. I'm not an affiliate for them, but I'm so grateful for a brick and mortar. Check them out. They do sell online. And Brandy and Gina are just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting my mouse together. Off camera, I added just a touch of darker pink ink to his ears and his belly. And so I'm going to add these pieces together. We're using almost none of the belly, which is part of why I'm not putting an outfit on him. I was like, you know what? We'll just dress him in frosting. This comes together super quickly, and I think it was designed really brilliantly. There are 2 layers for his body plus limbs. And then there's 3 pieces really for his head, for like the actual fur part of his head, and then additional pieces. But it makes it so that you always know where everything is supposed to go. So I am just adding his eyes into the little like holes that were left in that second layer. At first, I tried to put the mouth piece on first, the fur mouth. Bad idea. It's going to overlap the eyes ever so slightly. So learn from my mistake. I was able to peel it up because I figured it out pretty quickly. And then if you look at the inspiration online, there's actually a couple different ways you can put the eyes together. This is my favorite. So it has like the white of the eye, the iris, and the pupil. So here I'm adding the mouth, and you can kind of see how it overlaps just the very bottom of the eyes. And then there's like one separate die that cuts out all the small pieces, all the pieces of the eyes, the nose, the inside of the mouth, all those sorts of things. He's so cute, you guys. He's so, so cute. This is kind of a new brand for me. And I was absolutely delighted when I reached out to Elizabeth Craft Designs and was like, hey, I love your stuff. Can I be an affiliate for you? They said yes, and they gave me a discount code. So I'll put that in the description box below as well. She has really great sales too. This is a newer Spellbinders die. I actually just used this in a video, but I'm obsessed with this cake. It's from the Bougie birthday collection. And so this is called Ganache Gateau. And there's one die that cuts out the entire frosting at the bottom. And then there is a separate die that will cut out like every other piece of the frosting, so you can easily do this layered look. It's hard to tell on camera, but the blue of the cake itself is that blue ombre background that is the free printable for today. And I am spraying that with just a little bit of Shimmer Spritz. And while that is drying, I have a second one I've cut because I'm making a bunch of these cards because I couldn't help myself. But there's a separate one I've cut that I'm working with just to kind of get the lay of the land. I chopped off like the bottom half of the body and it wasn't enough. So then I figured I would just use the drip part of the frosting to get the curve right. So it kind of feels like he's coming out of something that's actually round. In the end, I'm going to cover that part up where he meets the cake. But it would work really well if you didn't want to do this extra step. So playing around off camera, I was like, could I freehand cut a piece of frosting that would be on his head? And it turned out beautifully. So I didn't dare try to do it again, but here's how I went about cutting a piece to cover up where his body is coming out. I just put the body over my pink piece of cardstock, and I wanted this blob to be a little wider than the body and to come up just a little bit higher. I have to draw it. I don't have the ability to kind of eyeball that and have it come out at all like I imagined. So I just kind of drew it lightly, cut around it, erased the extra, and quite frankly, that was a scrap of cardstock that was probably getting recycled anyway, so I wasn't super concerned about whether or not it was perfect. So here it is. I did add just a touch of darker ink. I'm trying to keep this video a little shorter. This is a hop. There's a bunch of us in this Oh So Inspired who are being inspired by Dani from Dani's Dreams. She lives local to me. I've gotten to meet her twice now. She's an absolute delight, one of the kindest humans I think I've ever met, and funny. And so there is a playlist. I'll link to that playlist below, and you can see everybody's videos. And we're all inspired by different cards that she has made. Her Instagram is absolutely amazing and full of wonderful coloring, but she's also over here on YouTube with quick videos. If you don't have a lot of time, it's really easy to just watch a fast Dani video, be inspired, and then move about your day. Speaking of being inspired, I was really inspired by two elements from Dani's cards. First was the color palette. There's some strong pink in there that I've definitely tried to pull over, but the colors in general were just really bright and vibrant. And so that was one of my big inspirations, but the other was the shape of her cards. So she has sort of a short card base. My guess is that it's like 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then a circle that extends it to make it a full A2. And so I liked the idea of a smaller card. Our cake is going to be a small card on the bottom with something popping up off the top that extends the size of the card, and that's my mouse. So I have finished sort of compiling all of the cake pieces together, and now we can work on the sentiment. So I am using the word happy. This is from that same collection from Spellbinders. I've used the word happy from the Birthday Cheers die set. And then I'm going to use one of these sentiments from my Pet and Critters free printable kit. I'll link to that video with the free printable below. If you're new here, if you're finding me from the Oh So Inspired collaboration, I release free printable kits on the first and third Friday of the month with sentiments and all kinds of goodies in there. Normally my circle sentiments are 1 3/4 inch, but I wanted this one to be smaller. So when I was in my print settings, I told it to print 2 per page, and that made it so that this was a lot smaller than normal. Then I'm going to use a sub sentiment from the Sweet Birthday kit that came out on January 3rd. Again, I'll link all of the free printable stuff below. So there'll be links to 2 separate videos because there's 2 separate kits. And then I'll be sure to link those digital papers as well. All I ask is that if you're going to use my free printables, please subscribe to my channel. It helps YouTube to recommend me to more people so that I can help others have lots of free crafty goodies to work with. It's part of my mission to make card making more affordable and more accessible for everyone. So I trimmed out a much longer sentiment. I am just stealing the word birthday here. My strip sentiments are about a 1/4 inch, and then I'm layering that on top of a 3/8 inch strip of cardstock. But I know I want this sub sentiment to layer on top of the word happy. So this is always a little tricky. I don't want to cover up so much of the wording that you can't read it. So even after I was done, I went rogue, friends. I used my little scissors to trim off tiny slivers to make that mat even smaller so that when I go to glue this down, it definitely is still a P and a Y at the end. I'm adding little bits of glue all over the back of my wording, and then I'll use my tweezers just so I can make sure I get that kind of centered in between the 2 edges of the cake, and then my tweezers again for that birthday to make sure I'm not covering up too much of any part of the wording. I'm going to add some foam onto the back of my tiny little scalloped circle sentiment as well. I think I'm overdue for another critter kit. Let me know what you guys think. This one says, hey, party animal, potty animal, P-A-W-T-Y. And I just think it's so cute and funny and really fitting for our little mouse. I'm going to use my cake die one more time. I have an A2 card base here, and I'm going to tape the die to it so it doesn't shift. And then here you can see the cutting edge on the left-hand side is hanging over the edge of the cardstock. So it's not going to cut that edge. It's going to make it so I have a shaped card, and then I can just glue my cake right on top of that card base, and that will finish up our little mouse popping out of the cake. Friends, I hope that you're inspired. Be sure to hop along. So a link to the playlist is below, along with links to the other videos that I've referenced that have free printables. And then you'll also find a link to that digital paper. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.